Hey everyone, we're here to talk about my first attempt at ET contact, at the base of Mount Shasta right before we left, and what that was like and what I was able to experience. And Will was there with me. He was a great guide and support during this process.
Yeah, I had my kidney thing during that event, and we didn't have time to get up there the first couple of days. And when we left, I was like, "Nope, we are going. It is magical." I was able to see a Lemurian being and meet one of my, I guess, Lemurian family and friend members when I went up there. And so I was like, "I'm just gonna drink my herbal tea and deal with it." And take her up there. So we went up there, and I don't remember if we knew you were gonna do what you did, but I remember that we were told we were gonna see three Lemurian beings at some point, and then we pulled in. We walked up to the path, and I remember looking up into the snow-capped mountain and seeing a yeti. Like I could see the yeti standing on the rocks, way out there, moving around. And I didn't expect that at all because Yetis are traditionally Himalayan mountains, but basically like a Sasquatch that's white snow type being. And I could see them, and then you felt them.
Yeah, yeah. So Will was in a condition where I was like, we don't have to go. I can come back another time. But I knew that I needed to see it before leaving in some way. So he toughed it out, and I'm really grateful. It was actually really healing for both of us to visit the frequency of the base of the mountain because beneath it lies the city of Telos, which is the advanced civilization that a lot of us were connecting to while we were there during the Lemurian Life Expo. And remnants of beings from Lemuria live within Shasta, the mountain itself, within it and beneath it as well, and within the water and the land, everywhere. So now here's what happened as we were approaching the location, the ground level of Mount Shasta, as furthest up as you could drive. We heard that we would see three Lemurian beings. And did we hear that they would be in human form? I
Uh,
think we
all
did.
they all they said was physical form to me.
Physical form.
Physical form.
And because anytime they tell him something, I can start hearing it too right away because I'm within his field. And we got there, and basically, right away, my guides started asking me to present offerings to the space. So I had some cashews on me, that's all I had available. And I started scattering it in key spaces that I was guided to scatter it, feeding a lot of the fae. There were a lot of little baby trees that I could tell were like big trees to the fae world, and they were just seated on the ground. So then I sprinkled some cashews under certain rocks. Then we're sitting there, meditating for a while, taking in the energy of the space. And I see this cute little, like, is it a squirrel or a chipmunk? A chipmunk. I don't normally see those in Arizona. And it ran over there to the cashew that I had left under a rock, and it picked it up right in front of me and starts eating it. Like, and in that moment, I thought, this is why we do offerings, to give back to nature. Nothing goes unused or unseen or not acknowledged in any way. So it was a really rewarding experience. Then I was my guides told me to do it on my own. I had to actually ask Will to step out of my field. We had to create mass space between us, and I had to surrender and release fear. And they explained to me that I could identify different portals, openings to Telos. And they had me walk around, and instantly my heart and my third eye were just gravitated to certain rocks, large, like boulder rocks, and bases of trees or energy centers within multiple trees and such. And they explained to me that these portals were essentially openings to that realm, to that world, and for me to go stand by them and meditate to feel that. Well, I went and I sat next to a big boulder that I knew was a doorway, is what they called it. Put my hand on it and I start meditating. That's the feeling I was getting suctioned. Instead of going up, I was getting the feeling of I was going to get sucked down. And I thought, oh my God, that was exhilarating. And they said, okay, dear one, you experienced it. Get off of this area now. Get off. And they said, scoot over to the side. And they explained to me that if I would have stayed there too long, I don't know, maybe energetically, astrally, in some way, I would have left. I felt that very strongly. It was one of the most intense spiritual experiences I've had in my journey. And I was really grateful for that. Then I became just like, oh my God, where are the other doorways? So I'm looking all around, I'm finding all these other doorways. And as we went on, my third eye, I could just feel it throbbing, wanting so badly to see. And I knew that in the distance, a lot of the trees, I started seeing them as I just would stare at them and kind of let my eyes glaze or go blurry. I started seeing that there were actually Sasquatch as big as the trees in Mount Shasta. They weren't trees. In the third dimensional reality, they appear as trees, but in the higher dimensional planes, they're actually beings. And it's very interesting. It like shifted. They told me that if I walked, and they told Will this, and then they kept emphasizing it to me, that if I walked 10 minutes in to get to the snow, that we could see them. I was tired. I knew Will wasn't feeling well. And I ended up having that saved for later. But what's interesting is that I received awareness that if I don't have my eye contacts in, I can see on an energetic and spiritual level. I am very blind. Like, I literally can't drive without contacts. I can't walk around the house without them. I can't see for shit. And whatever's in these lenses is a block, basically, for my mind's eye, because it's affecting my organs right here. They also flashed past lifetimes where I was like a blind oracle, where I would sit in such a place like this mountain, Mount Shasta, and people would come to me and ask questions, and I was a blind oracle. They are showing me Athens right now. Maybe I used to do it in Athens. I don't know. So we did a couple of practice sessions where I sat in meditation and let my eyes glaze over. And the key, they said, is when I got home to remove them. Finally, at the very end of it, as Will and I are leaving and we're going back down to the car, we see 3 human beings walking up, older, like elder human beings that really,
right. Old enough that you don't normally see them on the trail.
Yeah, like they had no business being on this trail. And they were also like really well dressed. Like they weren't even in hiking gear. They were like in casual, semi-formal type of clothing, but with a hat. And one lady had a cane. So there was 2 women, right?
Yep.
And 1 gentleman. One of the women had a big, beautiful husky style dog. It looked more like a wolf, and it was huge, like bigger than any.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Any dog.
It wasn't a wolf, by the way.
And Spirit told me those are the Lumerian beings. They all looked over at us and smiled and nodded their head. And it was like, what are they doing here? And Spirit said, those are the beings. Those are the beings we're letting you see in physical form. They're dressed in a way that you can handle. And then they said the animal was a creature, a Lumerian creature.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add. Other than it was fascinating to be able to take her and experience that, and to see the Yeti at the same time, validating, the things that I was seeing and that, and the portals. You were going to the places that were like portals, and I was seeing beings, and she was going to those spots too. So it was just very magical. But we're running out of time, so love you all. Grateful for each and every one of you.
Thank you so much for listening. I'm truly grateful.